Hi, welcome to Ammosmith.com. Today I'm going to talk to you about partial sizing and the difference between it and full-length sizing and neck sizing. Now here I have a neck sizing die, and what it does is it only sizes the neck of the case. If you don't have a neck sizing die, you can do what is called partial sizing. And what partial sizing is when you take your full-length sizing die and you use a standoff. Now you can adjust the standoff to whatever you desire it to be, but for today's purposes I'm going to use this RCBS partial sizing collar here that they sell for using in conjunction with your full-length sizing die. I'm going to show you how to set it up, and I'm going to kind of give you some ideas of how to tweak it into working the way you want it to. Let's get started. Okay, we're all familiar with what full-length resizing is, and I'm going to full-length resize the case so we can compare it to one that has been partially resized. And unlike neck sizing only, you still have to lubricate your cases for partial resizing. And the reason is instead of full-length resizing it all the way down to the width of the case, we're going to full-length size it only to a certain point and it's going to stop. But we're still putting a lot of pressure on the case walls here. So we just run it over our lube pad real quick. And this is a full-length size case. Go ahead and lube the neck here a little bit. Very nice. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition the camera and show you what the collar does. But first, I want to show you what this does and why it does it. This little collar measures 0.125, so it's 1/8 of an inch thick. And what it does, it gives you 1/8 of an inch standoff. And the reason why they give you this is because it's a constant. You can always go back and use this as long as your collar is set here, and it'll give you the same standoff each and every time. Now if you want to change that somehow, you can get a spark plug gapper or anything you want that would give you the same distance. And there are times when if you want to, if you have one of these, you can look across here and figure out how far off of your distance you want to be. And if you want to use a 1/8 one, then you just, like what this guy is, what you would do is take it and put the flat here and then run your die down to this point and set it. That way you know what your distance is, because your neck from cartridge to cartridge may be different. And what I mean by that is, if this were a 30-06 or a 300 Winchester Magnum or a 223 or 17 Remington, you may have different tolerances you want to play with. And this can also play a huge part in how your grouping works with your rifle on downrange performance. It's not too far-fetched to think that adjusting the neck tension on here or how the case sits into your chamber will affect accuracy. That's what the nice thing about loading your own ammunition is you can play with these things and load tune your ammunition to your specific rifle and get the absolute most out of your rifle. In many cases it can take a rifle that shoots mediocre groups and make it shoot outstanding. So let me set this up for you. Okay, how this works is you take your die and you remove it from the press. You take your offset ring, and I'm sure they make washers or bearings that are similar to this. Just take your die to the hardware store and figure out what this thing fits into, and take your calipers with you so you can get different sizes for what you want. You can mix and match. Go ahead and bring your die back down on top of this collar right here. Now just go hand tight. There's no sense of going overboard with this, and size away. Let's go ahead and size one, then we'll take some close-ups and show you what the difference is. Okay, now that we have it set up, what you need to do is realign, or not realign, but reset your decapping pin assembly and your expander ball to where it'll decap and eject the primer. but when you take this ring out, you have to bring it back up because you may take your expander ball and cram it into the bottom of the case, which will bend this stem right here, and then that whole part of the die is ruined. It won't ruin the whole die set, but it'll ruin this threaded number right here. So here we go. Now we're going to do some close-ups with this so we can show you what it looks like, and also I want to talk to you about the limitations of it and what weapons to use it in and what weapons not to use it in. Okay, there's 4 308 cases in front of you. The one to the far left has been fired but not resized or neck sized. The one right next to it has been neck sized only. This guy here has been full length resized, and the one to the far right has been partially resized. Now the big difference here is, I'm going to move the fired one over here. On the neck size one right here, you can see from here to here is the only part that had any stress put on it all from the neck sizing process. The case body itself is unaltered. It's fully taken the shape of the chamber, and that is it. The only thing that's changed is here, so it'll put tension on the bullet. This guy here has been fully length resized from stem to stern. Now if we look at him, you can see that all the way down from the neck all the way down to here, we can see where the full length resizing die set the shoulder back just a slight touch, and it put pressure all the way down to the web of the case. Now this guy, he has been partially resized, which means it's similar to neck sizing, but there's some case body sizing that took place. Now if we look at it, you can see a lump right here on the case. That's where the neck sizing stopped. Now if we go down the body of the case, it has been sized from here to about here. Whoops. If we look at the case like this in the light, you can see where the actual sizing process stopped, right about here. And that's because this thing has been crammed all the way back into the die. Now from here back is fairly unaltered, and you can see where there's still swelling down here from where it took the form of the chamber, but from here forward it's slightly resized. And what this does is it allows the bullet to only have tension here, but the case itself still pretty much takes the form of the chamber, so it's similar to neck sizing. Now for those of you who don't have neck sizing dies, this is a way of sizing your die, your cases partially, and getting the benefits of neck sizing, but also a little bit of body work gets done to the case. And until you guys get a neck sizing only die, this is the way to go. In fact, in some cases this performs better, but it depends on the rifle. Now when to do this, when not to do this. Do not do this in a semi-automatic rifle like an AR-15 or an M1 Garand or anything out there that's semi-auto, especially those rifles that are tight chambered like the Browning BAR. You will get a jam like you will not believe, because this whole thing stretches inside the chamber from the violent extraction of it, and what will happen is the bolt won't go into full battery, but it'll go into battery enough to where it's jammed in there really tight, and it's going to take a huge amount of force to get this thing out, and it's dangerous because what you have is, one, you have a rifle that's not in full battery, which means the locking lugs aren't fully locked. You may only get a quarter of that lug on there, and that's not strong enough to hold this pressure back. Two, you have a loaded firearm, not only that's not locked, but you're trying to finagle this thing out of there somehow without setting the rifle off. So if I were you, do not try this with semi-autos. This is best suited for bolt actions and single shots. I wouldn't even try this in a lever action because you can't exert the amount of force on a lever action that you can on a bolt action. Okay? So that's partial sizing in a nutshell.